Hey everybody, it's Jonathan Fudge, Mr. Fudge with YT Events. I'm here with Brenden Shanks, the B-man himself of BeeDirt. So, hello. Thank you for touching base today. How you been?
I'm good, man. Thanks for doing this. This is great.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm repping my BeeDirt. I got some
Yes,
with me.
sir.
Thank you so much. Very, very nice. And tell me a little bit for the people that don't know you. Just go ahead and tell me about BeeDirt. Tell me about that.
So BeeDirt is a proprietary blend of pretty much everything. Bees don't just make honey. Okay, bees actually produce a number of very important what we would call superfoods. Off the top of my head, pollens, propolis, which is also referred to as bee glue, which is where we get a lot of the antibacterial properties. They make it from tree sap, and extraordinarily good for you. A thing called bee bread. People don't know that bees actually bake bread. It's also a superfood. So when you take those things in proper proportions and in combination, you come up with a really fantastic organic health and wellness supplement. I discovered it by accident. It's good, huh?
Yeah, smells good.
It's no, yeah. I discovered it by accident about maybe 6-7 years ago with my daughter, who was like 4 at the time. And she actually named it too. She said it looks like dirt, and I said it was BeeDirt, and she said, yeah, BeeDirt. That's the name. So once you get a look at it, you can kind of tell. But ultimately, it's a proprietary blend that I came up with, combining all of the different superfoods and organic products that are made by bees, honey as well.
Yeah.
People also don't know that bees are preppers, and honey is their emergency food store. If they had a choice between nectar and honey, they're going to choose nectar every day. Honey is really there for them in the winter so that they don't starve. They don't eat it first off or firsthand. So there's a lot of things going on inside a beehive besides honey production. So
Now, I apologize for this looking as bad as it does because I've taken chunks out of it. But
right,
that's what you're looking at. And my wife looked at it and said, "Is this safe to eat?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is." And she
yeah,
took her first bite and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is good."
yeah, and so it is obviously safe to eat. There's nothing in there that the bees didn't provide.
Yeah.
I don't recommend actually, it is wax based as well, so I don't recommend swallowing the wax
Yeah.
in whole.
Yeah. So
But
I mean, since I've actually looked up some stuff about bees and honey and wax and honeycomb and all that, and like obviously, like you said, you're not wanting to just eat straight wax, but the
right,
wax you do eat is actually good against stomach ulcers and some other
mhm,
stuff. And the
right.
honey does some antibacterial stuff, helps grow proper gut bacteria because the sugars in honey work differently than like
They
processed
do.
sugars.
They work completely differently, and there's two different types, and there's also ferment in there too, Fudge. So that helps with the healthy gut biome
And that also
as
helps
well.
it keep too. And because of the nature of honey, I don't know if everybody else knows this, but you could put something in honey and it'll last essentially forever. It's a natural preservative. So this like preserves itself. So there's no unnatural preservatives in here
Correct.
to help it stay, which is really, really cool. So I took a nibble of the stuff the first day, and you're right, the BeeDirt's such a great name because it's got that the honeycomb, I guess, or the wax.
Mhm. Yeah.
It has a little bit of that crumbly feel and texture in your mouth that in the beginning is just gorgeous texture. It tastes good. It feels great. It's awesome. The first experience of trying it is amazing. And then as you start to suck some of the nutrients out, it starts to get more like gritty, I guess you'd say,
Hmm.
with the
Yeah.
wax.
Yeah.
And that's when you know, okay, you've like got most of the stuff out of it. And I'll usually
Right.
chew on it like gum almost
Hmm.
for a
It was
little
the
bit.
first chewing gum
Yeah.
5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. It was the civilization's first chewing gum.
Yeah. So I am super excited about that. So
Cool
thank you for
stuff, man.
introducing us to it. But I also wanted to, first of all, this is being recorded, just so, I mean, you already know. And what I'm going to do right now is the plan is to put this in a playlist of blocks video interviews.
So cool.
I really enjoy getting to talk and meet to people, and sometimes I forget things we talk about. So it's there for me, but also for
Right.
you. And
Right.
also, you and I are going to talk about stuff that you and somebody else might not. So I just
Totally.
figured it'd be really great. And then sometimes, people don't know what they don't know, right?
Absolutely.
So
Myself included.
yeah, but so first of all, I got to actually spend a little bit of time with you in season 6. So I was super grateful for that. So that was cool. And it's funny because we had a Brenden and a Branden, and I
Yeah,
met you both at the same time. So I had to like separate those in my head on day 2.
right.
But it was fun. And then
And it was Brenden Shanks and Brandon Banks. So it
yeah,
was, yeah, it was great.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. They
I
really tried to
almost start,
challenge us.
yeah, I almost started just saying, you know what, just call me BeeDirt. A lot of people do. Just call me BeeDirt, because I wouldn't, yeah,
That's funny. But
yeah.
yeah, so I actually started talking to you and I got some more history. And I come from the entertainment world. So the things that stuck out to me were, and you'll get this in a second, but my great grandfather was the first person in my family that I know of that started any type of entrepreneur anything.
Hmm.
And every time I went to go talk to him, he'd ask me about fishing because the only thing he knew about me as a 3-year-old was of fishing. And he goes, "Are you still fishing? You like fishing?" Because he was trying to be talking. And after he passed away, I learned that he was the sole survivor of 2 naval crashes and that
Wow.
he owned a trained troupe of performing monkeys.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if I
Wow.
told you that, but that was
No, we
the,
haven't had that conversation.
yeah. So he owned a trained troupe of performing monkeys and the little like organ grinder and
Hmm.
everything.
Probably
And
capuchins, most
yeah,
likely.
I
Yeah.
don't even know, like it's so long, right? But
Little
like,
ones, little
yeah.
guys.
So
Yeah.
he owned a trained troupe of performing monkeys, and that's how he got his money to start his bail bondsman
Wow.
business. That he later, that's what he ended up doing.
Yeah. That is
So
so cool.
yeah, and all that to say, I had a conversation with you about, I guess, your brother, uncle, nephew,
Yeah,
some friend.
I refer to him, he's my brother.
Yeah, yeah.
He's technically he's my ex-brother-in-law, but
Okay.
he was a kid. I was a kid when they got, so when he came into the family.
Yeah,
So I've been referring to him as my brother for 30 plus years. So not gonna
yeah,
change now.
yeah.
And
But
yeah, he does monkeys.
yeah, so but he doesn't have the little monkeys. He has the nice,
No,
bigger, crazier
all of
ones
them.
too.
Yeah, he has a couple of capuchins as well, the little organ grinders they're referred to.
Yeah,
Those are actually the smartest of all the monkeys, by the way, capuchins.
which is really cool.
Yeah, if you ever deep dive into them, there's actually a school in Boston where they train them. It's like a 2-year training program where to be they life assist helpers for people who are wheelchair bound, be it paraplegic or quadriplegic. They'll make you a hot pocket, they'll make you your coffee, they'll get your mail, all kinds of neat stuff that they do with those. They're really smart.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, they're really cool. But yeah, he's been doing it. He's got 30 plus years in the entertainment industry with his monkeys, and it's
Now,
Wild About Monkeys is the name of his show.
that's really cool. Now, this is not directly related to you, but it's just super interesting to me. And I remember you telling me the differences between the monkeys and the chimps and the apes and all that. Do you
Mhm.
mind giving that 30-second rundown of
Yeah,
that?
well, I mean, basic, and the difference is one they go by prehensile tails, right? So monkeys are going to have the prehensile tail, which is actually like another limb. They use it like an arm or a leg to stabilize and balance. But I mean, the main break really is between apes and monkeys. And then within monkeys, there's New World and Old World. So Old World is going to be your ringtails, your lemurs, various other ones that they kind of look more squirrel, less monkey. As you get, old to new. And I'm not an expert. I just was raised in literally in a house full of monkeys. But yeah, the most common one is simply, calling a monkey an ape or a monkey a chimp, and there are significant differences.
That's really
So
cool. It's just interesting how, um, first of all, just as individuals, we have our own, I call them skill points, right? That we put
yeah,
into what we've
absolutely.
learned.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that gets pulled into entrepreneurship and how something is relatively simple as the nuance between a monkey and an ape can vary drastically in how you
Very
approach the rest
much.
of your life.
Yeah. And, the other thing too, I'll say is having grown up that way is my brother specifically works with baboons. With various types. He has olive baboons, Hamadryas baboons, a mandrill baboon, who actually passed away a few years ago, a Zuma, absolutely gorgeous, the biggest of the old world monkeys.
Wow.
So we've had several different types, as well as chimps. He actually got his start working with chimpanzees at back then it was called Marine World Africa USA,
Okay.
which has since become Six Flags actually bought Marine World.
Yeah.
So he got his start there with the primates, with the chimps. And I will say that the other difference is that apes tend to be much more emotional. They're driven emotionally. If they get angry, and so forth. And monkeys tend to be much more logical. Their thinking is much more logic based, versus they're not going to get angry and do something out of spite. Whereas an ape, specifically a chimp or an orang, will absolutely just do something because they're just pissed, and
Wow.
they'll act out, which you don't see that from the baboons.
That's interesting. And you say that, and I'm just reminded that people have both sides of themselves too. And sometimes you
Absolutely.
see that in
Yep.
people as well. So that,
Yep. The dichotomy of human beings, right?
yeah. So just seeing, just knowing that something exists in nature where it's a little more rigidly classified,
Mm-hmm.
and just understanding that that exists, I think helps you understand how to interact with different people too.
Oh, totally. And my brother, I tease him all the time. He's a people watcher. He's been alpha male of his troop for 30 plus years. So
Yeah.
anywhere we go, I'm like, hey, you're with humans. Stop babooning, because he's doing his brows and stuff. It's like, no, that's not how we say hi to people. I
That's
gotta
great.
remind him. Yeah,
That's
I gotta
great.
remind him sometimes. He spends 16 hours a day with monkeys. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And thank you for going on that tangent. But you're telling me a little
anytime.
bit about the beater, so I'll kind of jump back to that. So you
Okay.
actually started as a bee farmer, an apiary,
Yeah, hobbyist beekeeper.
Yeah.
I really I was a paramedic by trade. I
Okay.
worked 48-hour shifts on an ambulance here locally for over a decade, and then that was my job. I got injured and I wasn't able to continue. During the 2017, we had horrible wildfires out here. It was the first round of them,
Oh,
and I lasted like 10 days on the line until I got injured and wasn't able to work again. So I kind of went. I've always had the bees. It was kind of my escape. I just love being around them. We started the BeeDirt thing. My daughter and I actually started because I wanted to quit chewing tobacco. And if you look at the can and you look at what it looks like, I mean, it's a chew substitute, man. That's actually how it started.
that's
I wanted to
interesting.
yeah, I wanted to quit chewing tobacco, and several of my buddies on the ambulance did as well. And I was around all of this bee material all the time, and one day it just kind of clicked, like, hey, I could make a substitute really quickly out of my organic material that's left over from processing. I could do something with this, and so I started playing around with it, and didn't take very long, and we kind of had what you have there with you. Which, by the way, I've got a whole. I'll ship some out next week. I got another fresh batch of material in, so it's really good
Oh,
stuff.
that's cool.
And what wound up happening, Fudge, was so call it half a dozen or so of my buddies and I. We all had this BeeDirt with us, and it wasn't in cans back, or anything like that. It wasn't a business. It was just me making stuff at home with my kid. And come allergy season, we're all sitting around as medics do outside the emergency room bays there, doing paperwork and what have you. And it was a horrible allergy season we had. And this is back in this might have been back in call it 20, maybe 15, maybe 2016-ish. And everyone was just suffering horribly. And I normally have, not severe, but a moderate seasonal allergy sufferer myself. It came on later in life. And a couple of my buddies as well. And we're all there, and everyone is just complaining, and their eyes are watering, the sneezing, just all the allergy symptoms, and we're all fine. We're all perfectly good. And it took a couple of those times where it's like I had 3 or more of us that were using BeeDirt. And it was like, why am I not dying? Everyone is just suffering terribly. And it was just like one of those, like maybe it's the dirt. And so I kind of deep dived into back then it was more function over format, and I just kind of hit upon it like, okay, so let's do a little bit more here. And I started giving it out to more people and more people with allergies. And then people started finding me. When you're suffering from allergies and real bad, as you'll if you're willing to try a spoonful of honey, if why not? And it's not working the way you had hoped, hey, why not try a spoonful of BeeDirt? Give it a shot, and that's really all I'm saying. I'm not, I don't make any other claims. I don't make any claims other than, hey, give this a shot.
That's awesome. And I absolutely love it. And now I've pulled up your website, beedirt.com, and you've got BeeDirt on there that's available, and you also have some cool merch. I got my shirt's on the way. I'm excited.
Yeah, they're coming. They're coming.
That's right. And then, but at season 5, 6, whatever we got, 6, at season 6, I also saw your ugly honey.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I am so completely and utterly jealous. I have never liked straight honey on a spoon as much as I love that ugly honey.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So,
You know, it really is different. You know what I mean? It's and any, you know, there are so many ways to make honey, and making good honey is an art. You know, it honestly and truthfully is. It's not as simple as just, you know, finding some honeycomb and you know, smashing it up or you know, spinning it or whatever else. It's an art. And just like anything else where you're, you know, where you're made, I mean, I live in wine country. So, you know,
now
all the
I didn't ask you, and I'm not going to ask you to reveal something you don't want to, but
sure.
the ugly honey, is that still have like the extra stuff that you have in BeeDirt kind of in there too?
Yeah, and so what I did was, you know, so the ugly honey is kind of it's a bit of a byproduct, if you will, of the BeeDirt process.
That's what I
BeeDirt,
figured, but yeah.
you know, yeah, and well, it's a very I shouldn't it's a I do it on purpose. How's that? It's a byproduct that I specifically made the process so that I could harvest the ugly honey.
Yeah.
But it isn't made the same way as you would necessarily make honey. And so what I wanted was a kind of a hybridized version. Some people were having, like you mentioned, the texture, and some people were just put off by, you know, I mean, not everyone wants to walk around with a big wad of, you know, macerated honeycomb in their mouth, you know. And so the ugly honey kind of came as a hybridized version of kind of a middle of the road between here's what BeeDirt has to offer, and then here's what ugly honey has to offer. Let's meet in the middle. So instead of having to hold it in your mouth for 10, 15 minutes and draw through it to get the nutrients, you can just make you can just take a spoonful of ugly honey and you don't have to worry about spitting anything out, you know? So it was kind of my hybrid. And then I don't have it on the website yet, but it's coming. And I don't know if I sent any on this. I probably did on this last one, but I also make what I call swarm trap tea. Soon to be on the website, and it is it's a lemon myrtle BeeDirt blend, and it's the same thing. You get another way in which, you know, with regards to anything that we imbibe, be it food or drink or medication, you know, your route is important. Do you drink it? Do you eat it? Do you put it on your skin transdermally? However you're going to take it. And I was trying to get people the benefits of BeeDirt in various modalities, i.e. you have BeeDirt or OG BeeDirt, which is, you know, ugly honey, a hybridized version, and then the swarm trap tea, which is another version that would again allow a lot of those nutrients, those vitamins, those minerals, and that superfoods. It would allow those to get into you via drinking the tea as well.
That's really cool. So I'm a tea drinker more than a coffee drinker. So
well, in that case, I got more coming for you. So,
okay,
plenty
we'll
of
have to
stuff.
figure it out. So I'm definitely a big fan. When COVID hit, I decided I was going to garden, and because I went from running events every single day to having absolutely nothing, I decided to garden a lot.
Right. So
I
can't imagine you with nothing to do. That was
that's so you met me, you know how that works. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
But instead of doing the basic 4x4 garden, I did 16 4x4 plots. I dug a 6-foot banana circle, and I went full throttle. And the first year and a half, my garden looked amazing. And then the Florida summer hit and just killed everything because I was out of town. And my wife, love her, she did a bunch of stuff. She didn't keep on track of watering.
I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So, especially if it's hot.
Yeah, and so now she's excited again. She's like, so when are you going to plant some more collards? When are you going to do this? So,
absolutely.
But all that to say, absolutely loved gardening, and I got into a lot of stuff. And one of the things I wanted to do was raising bees. I live in a very small cookie cutter house. It's technically legal for me to keep bees, but it's borderline whether I should.
Okay. So you guys don't have Florida's. That's one of the reasons so many folks in the carnival and the entertainment industry land in Florida, because there's very few regulatory laws as far as you can have a lion in your backyard, you know, in Florida. I would imagine that you
can have, I don't think you can have an alligator without a license, but you can have any non-naturalized native
It's pretty
species.
crazy in Florida.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
A lot
so
of
I
cities
think for
folk.
bees, I have to have it. I could technically keep a Landstrom hive
Mhm.
right near the back of my house. I think it has to be 6 or 8 feet away from the closest fence, and I have to have a fence that's at least 6 feet high.
Makes
So
sense.
like pretty much I could do it, but
Totally.
do I want to with my daughter? Do I want to with my wife who's allergic to bees? Do I want to with my neighbor with their kids? Like
How allergic to bees, first of all?
I haven't asked, and she hasn't been stung recent enough to know.
Right. So, because I'm allergic to bees as well,
Yeah, you
ironically.
talked about that.
Yeah,
So
and it was way worse when I was a kid.
yeah.
As an adult, I just swell up real bad. And I can take 2 or 3, 4 stings before I start to really notice now. But then once the swelling starts, it's like, okay, pack it in, time to go. I do have epi on account of it as well. But and then yeah, so how allergic to bees would be my first question. And then really the thing with beehives is if they have what they need, they really aren't in the business of bothering people. They really do want to keep to themselves.
And if you're
So,
doing one beehive, you really need like 2 or 3, right? Because of
so I would always suggest 2.
okay.
A good minimum of 2, and the reason is good example would be I do a lot of swarm capturing in kind of late March, April, and May is really the swarm season, and I'll go capture swarms and then bring them back. And one of the swarms that I captured late was really small, has a beautiful queen in it. She was doing her job, but it was a very late, kind of like what we refer to as like an after swarm. And so they really needed more numbers. And so what you can do if you have 2 or 3 hives is you can actually take a frame of brood, which is, bee babies, in all of the various stages. You can take a frame out of beehive 1 that is going to have a few hundred worker bees that are incubating in there, and put it over in beehive number 2. And then they'll cover those up, hatch them in their hive, and you have just increased your numbers in that hive by whatever that frame was. So it's kind of like you get to pick and choose. Okay, I need to build these guys' numbers up a little bit, or there's too many drones, so on and so forth. So one hive, you're kind of just at the mercy of Mother Nature. How's it going to go? But
Yeah.
with more than one, you have more resources available to kind of, mix and move stuff around. Or like you've heard splitting a hive, where you take a hive and split it, say in 2, and you put a queen leave the queen, the original, and then you add a queen to the other portion that you split, and they will become their own colony under her stewardship,
Yeah.
and so forth. So I would always recommend at least 2.
That's really
So you have
cool.
spare parts. You don't buy a Volkswagen without at least having a garage and some, and a few spare parts here and there.
Yeah,
So
no, I get it. So anyway, so I had a huge interest in bees.
yes, we
So
talked about it. Yeah,
yeah, and then
I'm gonna put you on the hives when you get here.
yeah, so I'm gonna have to come out and visit. We're gonna have to play on that. And then yeah, but I have those Langstrom hives, and I have my sister-in-law has a bigger piece of property.
Okay,
Obviously, it would have to be approved by her. She'd have to be okay with it. I'd have to run it and all that. But like
right.
at the back of her property, technically I could have a couple of beehives. And
You'd love it. You'd
yeah,
love it. The
so
first, I'll tell you, the first, and it's what season is, I want to say season 4. Chris Anderson.
okay,
Is that right?
that
Uh,
sounds right. What are
from
we?
Cleveland. He's in Ohio. Super
Oh,
cool
Chris, yeah, yeah,
beekeeper.
yeah.
Yeah, really neat guy. I was able to connect with him last week. What he does doesn't really won't work as far as his business and his modality, and what he's into is very different from what BeeDirt does. And we were kind of, we're kind of hoping to go back and forth regarding resources, but you he's got a really good thing going, and we were talking about he's going to send me some queens, and I'll be able to split more hives and so on. But you've got all in me and him and whoever, you've got all the resources to get started.
Yeah.
If you've got the boxes and everything else.
I'm basically a bee suit and a nuke away from having a
Well, there there you go. There you go. I mean, the bee suit, you could Amazon that in 4 hours, it'll be at your door.
yeah.
And with regards to a nuke, between myself or Chris, and he does pollinating and commercial stuff.
Okay.
As well. He's got a lot of hives. But yeah, well, let's get you started. You'd love it. It really is. It's pretty hands off once you get going. Once you get it set up and running, they tend to just keep to themselves, and you want to make sure that they have forage where they're at, and obviously, access to a good clean water supply and whatnot. But I mean, they'll travel miles a day.
That's fun. Yeah, and I was talking to some people, and it's interesting on the forums how you hear like sometimes in the neighborhood you have cleaner honey because people don't spray their flowers.
Yep.
Whereas
Absolutely.
if you go to an agricultural place like orange blossom honey, for instance, all the orange trees are being sprayed every week.
Yes.
So like,
right. And, so as a responsible beekeeper, especially for someone who's creating stuff to be consumed by the public, you want to know very well what area you have your bees in.
yeah.
Believe it or not, my favorite honey to make is honey that was that the flow was actually star thistle. If you're familiar with star thistle, they're a horrible, awful, just evil little rag of a weed thing, but it makes the best honey on earth.
Oh, that's great.
Star thistle, you look at them and you're like, really? Because there's nothing to, but yeah, star thistle honey is the best honey on planet Earth. So if you ever find yourself in a field full of star thistles, man, put as many boxes as you can. But yes, they will bring back, trace elements of things. And so you want to be very careful with regards to pesticides. And where I live in Napa, I'm surrounded of, I live in what's called the Carneros region of Napa County. So it's pretty much all wineries and vineyards out here. Luckily I live right on the river, and I'm just far enough away from the first immediate vineyard that I don't really worry about my bees getting that far. Pretty much what we have out here is I'm surrounded with a ton of ice plant, which is it's a succulent, and that they're flowering right now. So I get a little bit of a later flow as far as there's more available flow out where I'm at, because it's just covered out here in succulents and ice plant everywhere you look. So,
and people that don't know that are watching this, like you have different flows of different types of plants that have different amounts of nectar.
yes.
You have different bloomings of different pollinating things at different times.
Yes.
You have times when you're dry and times when you're overflowing. Bees only go a certain amount of distance. Is it 2 miles, 5 miles?
Yeah, I'm gonna call it 5 to 7, but it could right around in there.
Okay, and then I have another buddy of mine that has stuff, and he says you can move a beehive 2 feet at a time, or you can move it so many miles or so many, but you can't just move it 10 feet because the bees are so accurate with their pinpointing.
They are, so bees have a I don't know, it's not a barometer, but I don't even know what the word would be. So bees build honeycomb at a 90-degree angle to the Earth's gravitational pull. So irregardless of whether they're in say like a tree branch that's pointed like this or whatever else, they're going to build straight down.
Yeah.
And their GPS is we've yet to be able to recreate it. They have an amazing GPS system. And if you move your hive 6 inches or even just orient it 6 inches to one direction, you'll see a whole traffic jam start to come up, because they're all going right back to the coordinates, and they're looking around like, hey, where'd we go? So yeah, you absolutely can. They will find it eventually, but it just makes it that much harder on them.
Yeah, that's it. So that was just amazing to me. Like,
right.
I heard it as like a joke, but like he was like, yeah, you can take your beehive if you want to move it 10 feet over. He said it's actually easier to move it, 5 miles down the road and then move it 5 miles back.
Yes.
So, and that was
absolutely
just
true.
Insane to me. So like part of the reason I didn't start, because I was like, well, where do I put it in the yard, right? So like if I start in the corner, I can't just move it back. I've got to go somewhere else and come back and close it up. And so yeah, but it was a fun experiment trying to figure that out.
And once you get it set up, if you have to move it, you have to move it. They will figure it out. Yeah. But I can't tell you enough, man. Get going on it. Let's get you started.
I'm hoping the next what do they call it when they split in May, March?
Yeah, when they start swarming out.
Yeah, when they swarm. Yeah, I figured that's going to be the easiest, cheapest time to find something, right?
So, are you going to go catch one, you mean? Or
maybe, or just have somebody with it.
That's how I got my first one, it was actually ironically, at the time I was working as a paramedic, and I was getting into this, kind of just getting started, and my boss's boss's boss, if you will, so like the top guy out here where we were, he actually had a swarm show up about 20 feet up in a tree in his backyard.
Yeah.
And his wife was like deathly allergic. Okay. She was anaphylactic allergic. So it just so happened, that here my boss's boss has all of a sudden has a bee swarm, and he hears that I'm, oh well, Shanks is a beekeeper, so I got to go in my paramedic uniform and capture my first bee swarm. I got to go and do all of that while I was supposed to be on duty. I got taken out of service because the man had one, so it was great. And he was an awesome guy. I still enjoy hearing from him from time to time. Even if I haven't been there, but yeah, that's how I got my first one. Is you just go, you go grab one and put them in a box and get going.
That's really cool. Yeah, I have a buddy down the street. When I was trying to learn, I tried to shadow some people, and he actually used powdered sugar. So he'd find some bees and he'd put some powdered sugar on top of it.
Okay.
Follow it, see what direction it went, and then he walked in that direction until he found their hive.
Yeah, like breadcrumb his way there.
Yeah.
Sure. That's dedication.
Yeah. So, but he lives
dedication.
in this big open field, right? He's like, well, it's got to be a wild hive. So
right. And I prefer wild, and the reason obviously is mainly genetics. So they a wild swarm is a native swarm is going to have hardier genetics. They've already survived a winter. They've all, they know the area. They're not bought from some other state and shipped in, kind of this almost like aseptic box full of bees. It's, I prefer all of my hives that I caught locally, the swarm, they stand a much better chance of, one of the things about keeping bees is you're going to lose some hives over the winter. Yeah. And what I mean by lose is they literally, they abscond. You walk out to your box, and depending on how long it's been, it's either empty or at the point they've been gone long enough since you've been there, it's got ants and spiders, and they've it's a ghost town.
Now, me living in Florida, is that the opposite? Like during the summer, I might lose them due to heat?
No. So it's pretty much now. I don't, not ever having kept bees in Florida. I'll just, just kind of going just in generalities, but pretty much every winter you winterize your hives. You make sure that they have to heat the smallest, portion possible and whatnot, and the numbers and everything else. But they, I say it all the time, bees just leave sometimes, man. They just, we don't know why they do it. But it's, if you're going to be in beekeeping, you're going to come back to your hives at some point in the winter, and one of them took off.
So really, as a beekeeper, you're not forcing the bees to stay there in any way. All you're doing is trying to create a home that they like.
Absolutely. So bees prefer it dark. They want quiet, and they want be able to regulate. Bees are very sensitive to temperature. But they can leave anytime. The front door is always open. What we do is we exclude, like you mentioned, Langstrom boxes, where you have one box stacked on another. And the reason you do that is you put what's called a queen excluder. So your bottom box is going to be your brood chamber, or where the queen's laying eggs and everything is in the bottom. And then you're going to put an excluder, which is essentially a screen of sorts. They make them plastic or metal. And what that does is it's got just enough of an opening that any of the workers and drones can go up through there. But the queen, how do I say this? The queen can't get through because her butt's too big. So
she's a little bigger.
Yeah. So basically all of beekeeping is kind of stylized around the queen's big fat butt. So she can't get up in there to lay eggs. So the workers
so that
go
ends up
there.
Being honey, and that ends up being other things. Right?
Yep. You will find queen cells in there, like you mentioned earlier about swarming. When they swarm, they create a new queen. And it's always going to be, I've always found them in my honey supers. The workers will create a queen cell is about that big, looks like a unshelled peanut, looks like a peanut shell.
So is it actually the workers that are laying the queen egg?
No, so the queen lays an egg, okay, and then the workers will make it whatever they need it to be. So by feeding it royal jelly and
so are they moving that up to the top part?
Okay. Yeah. So and you kind of find them all over. you
Yeah.
know, and it depends on the size of the hive and the vitality of them and everything else. But
And
and
the
normally,
queen usually is trying to kill those cells, right? So that
yeah,
she.
it's called plining. So one of the cool
Okay.
things they'll do is when a new queen is hatched, she'll make this like radar-y, beacony weird. I think I'm pretty sure it's called plining or plinning. They make like this radar beep, like weird screechy echoey thing you never hear again in your life. And another queen, if there is another queen in the cell, she will respond to that. And then that the one that's free to roam will go find her and sting her and kill her while she's still in her queen cell.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's got to be YouTube videos in that of that behavior, but she'll literally go echolocate when a queen hatches. She can and will go echolocate any other potential queens, which would be rivals. And since she's the first out of her cell, she'll go find them and sting them through the cell until they're dead.
Wow. And
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
I mean, it just amazes me. And so all this to figure out how to make the superfood that we can
Mm-hmm.
use.
Yeah, and we've
Yeah.
been using these things, Fudge, for thousands of years.
Yeah.
The French monastics kind of turned beekeeping again in and of itself. It got real popular. But first, like I said, ancient Mesopotamia, man, they were chewing honeycomb as chewing gum.
Yeah.
And we've been aware of honey as far as you can heal wounds. Yes, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. It has all sorts of just great, kind of homeopathic, naturalistic, medicinal qualities to it. Yeah.
And even the bee sting
Mm-hmm.
is good for you
Yeah.
too, for
Yeah.
arthritis and that kind of thing.
Very good for arthritis. Bee venom actually, as I understand it, you can use it on your face. Women are using bee venom as far as like an anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, that kind of stuff. I don't know that I'd want, that many bees on my, but yeah, there's Militon I believe it's, how do you pronounce it? Militon is bee venom.
That's
And
really
it
cool.
has all sorts of various medicinal properties as well, but definitely with the anti-inflammatory, and the antibacterial, you get what's called wound honey. I see that marketed a lot.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
That's really cool. So now after season 6, I mean, what did you take away from that? What was your experience like for you?
Wow, you were there. Oh, yeah. So wow, do I not know anything about business? That's what I take from there. I already gave myself up. The computer I'm doing this on is brand new. So I was running BeeDirt out of my phone. And my bonus daughter is who made my website. She's 20, she just turned 23. So she actually made the website. And I didn't and I didn't get
Just get back home.
and I didn't I didn't go into this a ton on or anything like that, but so I actually sponsor a Brazilian jiu-jitsu cage fighter back home. His name is Brady Wickland. And I found him, actually, I should say he found me just through, he was called a customer, but he's a local farmer. He owns several farms out here and farm stands, FFA and all that kind of stuff. And he's also a phenomenal Brazilian jiu-jitsu cage fighter guy. And he was like, man, I love this product. I've never seen anything like it. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm one of one. BeeDirt is we are unique. Did that just come?
It just came in the mail.
Nice. I have no idea what's in there.
Scissors, please.
I have no idea what's in there. I take no responsibility.
I can unbox this now.
That's awesome. So I found this guy, Fudge. He found me just as I love your product. I'd like to get together. And so I wound up sponsoring him. Right on.
I love this, by the way.
Right? Aren't those great?
This is beautiful. I opened up and saw that, and I was like, man, it's so great. I just like the picture.
Yeah. Well, and my artist is her name is Anna Pounds. She's 14 years old. I've actually never met her. I went to high school with her mother, and the way BeeDirt happened to kind of here overnight, and our origin story, if you will, which I won't go into, but short version is I've watched her grow up on Facebook, being Facebook friends with her mom and, high school friends and what have you. I've watched her art, her mom's been posting for the last 7, 8, 9 years, and she's always been great. And so when BeeDirt got started out here, on a Facebook thread we were, people were commenting on, and her mother said, "Hey, if you need an artist for your new business, I know a good one with a winky face." And I was like, "She's hired with a double winky face bag," and she thought I was kidding, but no, I was completely serious, and I hired her right there on the spot. And so all of BeeDirt's artwork is actually done by Anna Pounds, who I believe she's 14. There it is. Yep, that's her artwork there too. There it is.
Yeah, and that looks fantastic.
Isn't it great?
So,
And,
well, congrats to Anna for doing such a wonderful job. I'm super excited about that. And it's black, so it matches my wardrobe. I'll be able to do laundry.
That's awesome.
Very excited about that. And then we've of course got our stickers, and I got one of the rare shiny ones, which is nice.
Right. You got one of the, yep, that's right.
Yeah. And then I believe this is BeeDirt as well.
That's the tea. That's the BeeDirt tea. Yeah.
Oh,
remember,
okay.
I was telling you, I'm pretty sure I tried to send you some.
Okay,
so you said you had enough dirt.
Or how does this work?
Oh, you can open it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you said you had enough BeeDirt based on my last envelope, so I didn't send any BeeDirt.
Nice. So these are individual tea bags too.
Yes, they're individual.
Can you see that? The little bee.
So now that bee fudge, that bee actually goes on your mug. If you put that bee on the side of your handle, you can wrap your string around it, and it'll hold your string on your tea bag so it doesn't go flying around.
That is awesome.
So, and that's honey that's leaching through those bags.
Yeah, that smells delicious too.
Ugly honey. That's ugly honey that's leaching through those bags,
okay.
Right? So
that's good. So this is the tea. So there's not directions on it because I'm sure you are still working on the packaging.
Right. You're part of my beta test program, and there's literally nothing on there. I was just going to text you, hey, steep it like regular tea, 8 to 10 minutes in hot water. And you can actually steep it more than once. There's plenty of material.
Okay, so I will, but because I'm a tea drinker, there's like 5 million different ways to do tea, right?
Okay.
So like, do you have any idea on how long to steep it, what temperature, any of that?
So below 180, I'm gonna, you don't want the water to boil, or if you do boil it, let it sit, and you want that temperature gradient below 180, because after 180 it starts to cook off some of the nutrients and will actually kind of change the metabolic processes of the sugars that are in there, the honey and the BeeDirt and whatnot. So I'm gonna, it's a lower temperature steep than you would, say other teas. And I would 8 to 10 minutes is good. 8 to 10 minutes is good. You don't get a significant color change or anything like that with the water. It will kind of yellow out a little bit. But that's really about it. But you'll get the strong, it's an organic lemon myrtle and BeeDirt blend. Cool. And I went with that on account of, and the reason I call it Swarm Trap is honeybees, since you like honeybee facts so much, Fudge, honeybees have a little gland. It's called a nasinoff, however you want to pronounce it. It's kind of that white belted little strap on their, kind of just above their butt on their back.
Yeah.
And that little gland, they do a thing called fanning, where they'll raise their butts way up high in the air like this and fan their wings.
Yeah.
And they'll release a pheromone out of that nasinoff gland. And what that pheromone is that's an orientation pheromone that says, hey, this is home. It's telling the rest of the hive, this is home. This is where we want to be. So it will draw the other bees in and it smells very, very strong of lemongrass. So anytime you hear of a bee lure or a swarm lure or anything like that, it's always going to have a lemongrass, and beekeepers will use lemongrass oil to attract bees, because it mimics that orientation pheromone, which says to the bees, hey, this is home, and it's really strong. If you get in front of a hive that's fanning that a lot, that it'll blow you right in your face. It's very, very strong.
That's cool. Well, I'm very excited to try that and to test that out, and I will do that today for sure. So thank you very much for that. And then of course, when your ugly honey comes up, I know the wife's going to be big on that. She's always been trying to get honey, but I think that would be great. And even the ugly honey, technically you could throw some in some hot water and stir it around, and that's essentially similar, right?
With the exception of it's similar. However, I would say that I wouldn't, you would just, as far as ugly honey goes, as it relates to BeeDirt, they're separate enough that
Okay.
you would be getting some, yes. I mean, it would be a great, all natural sweetener, right? That would have some of that with it. But in terms of steeping in tea and hot water, you're better off to start with having the BeeDirt available in there as well.
Oh, the tea. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the, there's that is ugly honey in there, but it's, the BeeDirt is what's is being bound by ugly honey in there.
So the ugly honey is just extra honey.
Mhm.
So I know it's not exactly right, but like BeeDirt is more dehumidified, and honey is, that's not the right term, but there's more
That'll work. So yeah, so BeeDirt is essentially an as a base, a macerated honeycomb. So
Okay.
you take specific portions of the honeycomb and you chop it all in it, and as you process, you chop it all up, mash it all up. That's and honey, of course, being the binder that's binding all those
And
particles
yeah, you
together.
can actually see some of the pieces of
Yes.
the extra like
That's
pollen and
wax.
stuff in there,
Yeah,
and
the
wax.
pollen, propolis, the dark browns are going to be more of the propolis is hard to harvest
Mhm.
because it is like glue, and it dries almost like a ceramic. It's bee glue, bee caulking. They use it any cracks in the hive or anything they want to seal up against invaders or weather. They make that propolis, that bee glue. And it is antibacterial and all that stuff. So it's a little harder to harvest on account of it's not necessarily just in and on all the wax. You got to
Yeah.
actually go in and grab it,
Yeah.
and scrape it off.
Well, that's
So
very cool, man. Well, thank you so much for all of it, right? You were super generous with everybody, like letting us try your product and all that. And
I was, yeah,
um,
just,
very excited about it. I'm super excited about sharing it with my gardening friends and stuff too.
yes.
So I'm hoping that that takes off a little bit as well. And I can't wait to see how the tea, the honey, the dirt all comes together and really works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Me
is there
too.
is there
Me
anything you
too.
want to share, or you want to ask, or you want to?
I mean, honestly, it's just it's great talking to you, man. It's like
Yeah.
being by myself here. It's kind of like whoa. The bees aren't great conversation. They listen, but they're not great conversationalists.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a whole thing. I mean, coming back from I'm in California and flying back from Kansas City, and just that whole experience was so completely far and away and removed from anything like I've ever, I mean, your business, you're an entertainer,
Yeah.
you have I'm not, I might be entertaining, but I am certainly not an entertainer, and that whole experience for me was just so far removed from anything I've ever been around. And I've been around quite a bit, I'm still just kind of processing all of it, and I want to go back. I totally get it why people go back. Like, I feel like I have unfinished business there as well. How we do different things during the day, and parts of the day, yeah, there's a few things I'd like another shot at. You know what I mean? Especially armed now with having an idea of what we were actually doing versus
Yeah.
literally walking in there. I mean, I'm having surgery on my ankle here pretty quick, as you know.
Yeah. Have you not had that yet?
No, I finally got to meet my surgeon just this last Monday.
Okay.
So I'm still waiting on the MRI, and still limping around
Yeah. For those
doing,
that don't know, he went through the whole thing with a broken foot and just
yeah.
decided he was going to tough it out.
Well, here's the thing. They gave me the and this about, I was so scared, man. I
Yeah.
was so nervous. It was almost like if you put a mic on me, it's just a guarantee I forget the English language. And so I thought if I had the option of going on to the next one, waiting, so to speak. And it was like, if I don't do this now, I'm going to come up with another excuse for season 7. There's no way, it was like, just go do it. You know what I mean? Like I kind of was like one of those things where if I let myself off the hook because of my broken foot stuff, then I probably would have never got there. So, yes, I did go through the whole thing with a great big club on my foot, but most of that was because I didn't think I'd go there, and I'd come up with another excuse. So I forced, between my kid and myself, I forced myself to go.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm super glad that you went, and I'm
Me
happy to
too.
have met you. And I think that it was a great experience, partly because of you being there too. So thank you very much
Yeah,
for
I appreciate
coming to
that.
do that.
I think the exact same about you. It wouldn't have been, there's just no way it wouldn't have been the same without you, man. And I'll tell you the first, because you already had the perspective. So it was like the first day you came in, man, you were a whole thing. I was like, wow, check this guy out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just gonna kind of, yeah, I like him. You know what I mean? Like you were fun to be around from minute one.
That's
And
great. That's so glad to hear that.
we had a good time for
Well,
sure.
awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the stop the recording rather.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before we turn off?
No, just thanks to everyone, yourself included. But I mean, yeah, just I'll tell you, BeeDirt's never had so much attention. So
Awesome.
thank you to everyone who I feel like I finally, I've been discovered of sorts. I've been a secret for a long time. So
that's awesome. And for those that didn't hear already, BeeDirt, BeeDirt.com, check that out. Brenden Shanks has probably the best allergy relief, the best tasting honey I've ever tried, and a lot of good, great, and awesome stuff for you there. So thanks again.
Thanks, Fudge.